What's up, everybody? Welcome to Almonds and Coconuts, where we talk about slice of life topics focusing on traumatizing, embarrassing, and childhood stories from Indian kids living in America. I'm Arjun.
I'm Shiny.
I'm Harshita.
I'm Bhavana.
And I'm Hasani.
And today we're going to be talking about generational differences between our generation, we're all Gen Z, and our parents' generation, and I believe all our parents are Gen X.
Okay, I'll start off then. I think we've all felt this experience when you're talking about anything with to do with school, and let's say it's just been like a tiring day at school or whatever, or like, your teachers were just really annoying that day, and you come home and your mom asks like, "Hey, how was your day?" or whatever, and then you tell them, and they're like, then they go, "Back in my day, I used to walk 5 miles with no shoes, and it was rough roads, and then I used to swim across the ocean." Like those stories that really, really like exaggerated how difficult their journey was to school itself.
Well, they exaggerate so much. They're like, "Oh my God, I swim 7 seas to get back home."
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, I had to walk a bunch, and then, there was a river I had to cross, and then I had to use my bicycle. And then they always, for some reason, my parents were like, oh, we only had one bicycle in the house, so I would always fight my sister or brother for it. And I was like, okay, unneeded detail.
And the other thing is like when we're watching TV and stuff, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky to have this TV. I used to have to like sneak and look through my neighbor's window because we didn't have a TV, only our neighbors did or something.
Oh my
Wait,
god.
yeah, that's so true. My parents were like, or yeah, my dad was like, oh yeah, in our entire village, there was only one person who had a TV. So
And then
everyone, like
everyone would go over.
On Friday nights, they would play movies like on the channels and stuff. So every night, everyone would go to their house to watch the movie.
I know, right?
Yeah, and I felt so guilty when they would say that because I was like, oh no, now I feel so spoiled because they're like talking about
Yeah.
this one TV type of thing.
Yeah.
Except
But here's
it's
the
like
thing.
it's different,
Yeah,
it's
yeah. And
different.
like also I think we are Generation Z at least is the first generation to grow up on like full on technology. So it's not really our fault in the end because this is what we have grown up on. This is what we're gonna continue to grow up on. So
Yeah.
I'm just used to having TVs, phones, iPads, computers just all around me. That to the point it's like weird that I can that too it becomes weird if I don't have it around just because that's how our lives are now, right?
Yeah, because I think
Yeah,
like
and
back
also
then, like they didn't have that much technology, so like they wouldn't be able to grow off on it. And now, like since after we were born, they started like developing a lot of technology, so that makes a
and
lot more sense.
Yeah, and also if you think about it, it was the older generations who actually invented the iPhone and TVs and stuff. It's not like Gen Z actually created those. So it's not like we created them and we're using them. No, it's like other people created them
And
and
it's
they
just in our
wanted us to
houses.
use them.
And
And
And I
also, I
also,
feel like
before I got my phone, I would ask my parents if I was gonna get one and when. And my parents were like, "Oh, I got my first phone in college." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but that was different because everyone got their phone in college and it was useful then. But now it's useful in high school and everyone's getting their phones in like as early as, late elementary school or early middle school."
so I feel like our parents are kind of hypocritical. They're always like, "Oh my God, you're always on your phone," and at the same time, my dad is like watching cricket on the TV while watching like reading the news on his phone, and then doing off like his office work on the computer. And he has like
Right.
3 electronics with him, and at the same time, he's telling me to not use my phone. I'm like, well, I mean, you're doing the same thing, so it's kind of hard to take them seriously too.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel guilty because like they use like their technology because they're making money and they're supporting us and they really worked hard to get here. Like they had to they had to become like top of the class in India. Then they had to gather the money, travel to America, and then like go like get a job here while supporting themselves and their parents who are in India, and now they're here. So that's
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm very thankful for that, and I'm thankful that I live here. Obviously, very privileged. And obviously, I admit that. Like, I'm like smart enough to know that. But like, obvious at the same time, you can't blame us for, I guess, in quotations, being obsessed with technology. It's what we know, it's what we are used to, and it's what we are going to continue to be used to. Like,
Yeah.
technology is not going to get dumber as we grow up. It's definitely going to get more and more high tech and more smart and more, like, even now it's going to get crazier and crazier. And that's just what we know. Our parents, they felt that generational change. They felt that change from everything being very, like, less machine like to everything being very machine like, and they felt that change. They've seen that change happen. So obviously they have a little more experience with that, but we don't. So a lot of the times I can't really empathize or get what they're trying to tell me because I have not lived a life like that. So
Yeah. And also, if you really think about it, our parents are the ones who brought us here, to the land of technology.
Mhm.
And then our parents are the ones who bought the iPad and the TV for our homes. And so it's like, yes, while we are privileged and, I'm very thankful to be here and there's so many opportunities, it's also a lifestyle that they brought us into.
exactly, that's
It's like it's
yeah.
like giving us something, but then criticizing us for using it. Like,
Yeah.
It reminds me so much of schools because schools are always like, yo, don't spend so much time on electronics, play outside. But at the same time, 80% of our assignments are on Google Classroom or some sort of online platform. So we're kind of taught to rely on technology from an early age because, for school assignments, that's what we use. So it's hard to break away from that chain because our parents, they didn't have that option. So they never got roped into it or addicted to technology. But we do because we use it in school, and as it's natural that we use it in our free time as well.
And I don't know, it's just I obviously wish, like, sometimes not wish, but like I feel like because the entire world, in at least in our areas, are so dependent on technology, you're just gonna go along with it. You can't really question it, you can't really change it, and you're going to continue to go along with that, right? So obviously I don't understand that sometimes what my parents are saying. I'm like, why? It's just easier to do it this way, do it that way. And it's like Google has been at our hands ever since, we could put letters together and make words and then make sentences. And it's like, how are we supposed to break away from that habit when that's all we have ever really known? So,
but if you can that like the habit goes both ways. Like Generation X grew up with like no technology whatsoever,
mhm.
and then they now all this technology comes all of a sudden, and they have to change their habits from normal to technology, which is kind of easier, but it's still hard to get used to.
Yeah, true.
I feel like not only technology, school is kind of different for us. My dad would always talk about how when he was going to school, they didn't have enough. I guess this is only where he lived, not really a generation thing, but he had one class for all students, like of all ages. So he would have people that are like 5 years older than him in one class with them, and also people younger than him. So I feel like our schools are more different, but I'm not sure if that's a generation type of thing.
I think that's more of like the where we went to school type of thing.
Yeah.
So another thing is like our parents, they grew up with a different curriculum than us, and I think that's kind of hard for them to understand because like at my age, they were probably doing like high school stuff, and then I'm doing like America's curriculum. So
Yeah, there's also yeah, location also has its differences and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I feel like the one thing that my parents didn't have is volunteer work. Our schools, like if you want to get into a good college, you need to volunteer at a nursing home or something like that. When I first told my parents that we have to do volunteer work, they were so surprised because they were like, why should that be a qualification for something like education? I never really understood it either. I understand they want us to be a good citizen, but if we want to go to a college to learn, like, I don't know, mechanical engineering, I don't get why we should volunteer at a nursing home or pick up trash to get into that. But I feel like that's also another difference in education.
Yeah, I think that's just like a difference in location because in a place our parents grew up, which is India, they valued like knowledge, like it's like whoever got the best test score. But then here they're like valuing all the other qualities, not just education, like knowledge.
But yeah, like whenever I call
Yeah.
my grandparents, they always ask me like, "Oh, did you get class first in that? Did you get class first in this?" But like, I'm like, "There's no class first because like they have a different like we have it because they're in India and we're in America and they expect us to do more. Like they have a lot of studying there and we don't have as much as they do, so they expect way too much."
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I also feel like the volunteer work is kind of a generation thing because I know that a few years ago it wasn't stressed as much of students. I feel like it was mostly just knowledge, like what they do in India too. But now, as people are getting more competitive, they're requiring more stuff, like on top of having a good GPA, volunteer work, extracurriculars, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also it's like back to what Bhavana said about like the grandparents thing. I agree. My grandparents are also like, "Oh, did you get the best score in class?" And I'm like, "Well, they don't actually announce who got the best score. You know, everyone's scores are confidential." And they're like, "What? That makes no sense." And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I kind of explained to them, you know, they don't want anyone to feel bad, and you know, everyone deserves to have their own privacy, but my grandparents don't really get it because in India they they kind of tell you about the class toppers and stuff like that. And also I was talking to my dad about like, you know, college and kind of I was just wondering about how schools were in India, or at least, you know, when he went to school in India, and I'm pretty sure it's kind of similar now too. But he said that apparently in India, in high school, in the last 2 years in 11th and 12th grade, you pretty much have to choose what course you want to take, which will determine what career you have. So he said that there's only a couple options too, so it's very kind of closed, and the options are yeah, there's only a few options, which are, I think one of them was like science, which would take you into a doctor or a medical field, and then another was like math, I guess, which would take you into accounting and business, and then there was like engineering, and then there was another one that was, I think it was called arts, but it wasn't, you know, like singing or dancing and, you know, music or actual arts that we do here. It was a different thing, so it was not really an extracurricular type of thing. Like here, when you say arts, you would imagine it to be more of an extracurricular, that type of thing, but no, there was another educational thing. So apparently you choose one of those, and then based on that, the high school in those last 2 years will give you specific courses. And then based on those courses, you go to a college that will give you more courses that will take you in that path. And I was like, well, what if someone doesn't, you know, doesn't want to be one of those? And then my dad said, then you would probably have to do whatever you want outside of school, but it's very hard to do that. And it's also really hard to switch. You know, like if you choose the doctor path but you want to be an engineer, you can't really switch after that, so it's really hard. And I was like, wow, you know, in America, you, like even in high school you can try different options, but it's really in college when you decide your majors and stuff, and even after that you can just go to, you know, extra years of college or a different education if you want to switch your career. So it's very open here, and you
Yeah.
know, there's a lot more
I
options.
think like based off of what you were saying yesterday, my mom was talking to Shiny's mom actually, and they were talking about colleges and stuff like that. And obviously they were right there, so I could hear their conversation. They were pretty loud anyways, but I could hear their conversation, and they were like talking about how when they were younger, like science meant like biology, and that meant doctor, like you said. So anything just related to the medical field. But here my mom was like mentioning how science, under science, there's like 50 million different categories that you could do and you could study in and you could get a career in, and then same thing with math and same thing with engineering, and just there was so many mini categories underneath this like giant umbrella of a subject. And my mom was like, they don't really have that in India. Obviously, they're slowly improving that now. It's like getting better and better with more and more options. But they have that here. And my mom was just like, that's such a shocker because we didn't have that when you were younger. And now it's like you could do so many things that you won't know what to do at some point because every little like subcategory seems so interesting.
I feel like that's the same with art. Like in the older generations, they didn't have, like, if they wanted to become an artist, I feel like it would be mostly frowned upon. But now that's an actual career path that people choose to go into. And with technology, that's also expanding their more career options, like Harshita said, in engineering and math. And I feel like I wanted to specifically focus on art because I think 20 years ago, if someone said, yo, I want to be an artist, it's or music. I feel like now people are kind of progressing and being more open toward those art careers that wouldn't have been possible in the older generations.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's another thing I'm thankful for, like how many options we have because like back then, like when our parents grew up, they had to find a way to like make money and come to America so that we could have a better life here. And to do that, there's literally only like a couple options like doctor or engineer because those two will make the most money. And then, yeah, and then now we're getting all these options like available on what we want to pursue. So that's really cool.
But like I felt like they categorized them in like important, not important. Like for example, what Shiny said, like artist or musician back then, like they thought it was like not that valuable and that we wouldn't like be more successful with that. And like doctors were very important and they'd be more successful like that.
And another thing that's like kind of important, like the like improved from this generation is that basically like before we mainly focused on like two subjects like math and science and stuff, but now like the new generation we opened up to like language arts, like writing is really popular now, in like to become an author and like social studies to become a historian and stuff like that. We didn't really have good options like that back then.
Yeah, I think based off like building off of what you were saying, by this generation, I mean our like my generation, like just kids like us. I feel like our parents are still kind of slowly opening up. Maybe some are more open than others. I don't know. But I feel like our generation is becoming more and more open with just accepting people for what they want and who they are. And like I think there's definitely a gap that I see when we're just out about and like we're just like somewhere, let's say we're at a store or whatever. I'm looking at the whole world, like this whole store a little bit differently than my parents would, right? Like let's say someone's wearing something, I'm like, oh, that looks cute, but my mom would be like, why is this person wearing that? Like, why is he or she or they wearing that? Like, what is that? Why would you wear that? But I'm over here thinking like, hey, that works with them. That looks good on them. If I tried to make that work, I would not. I feel like there's just our generation is slowly becoming more and more progressive and more improving upon just like like I said, accepting people, trying to change the way that our world is and trying to fix the things that should have been fixed a long time ago.
Right. I feel like our parents follow a more traditional and conservative aspect, especially when it comes to something like fashion. If they see someone wearing a dress that's above their knees, they're like, oh Lord, they have sinned, right? Everyone can see their kneecaps. What is the world gonna think? However, we look at it more in a positive attitude. We're like, oh, that looks cute, like Harshita said. And I feel like this is also kind of true about sexism. I feel like the olden generations are kind of more misogynistic. That's kind of what I observed. It's not obviously the truth, but I feel like now we're more open and equal to all genders.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree because like first of all, LGBTQ community was not accepted at all back then. Like if you like came out to someone, you would be a laughing stock, like you would just be like oppressed in society. And women were also oppressed like back then. Everyone was like housewives and stuff. Like look at our like if you just take a look at our like grandmothers or like our great grandmothers, they never really were properly educated. But now we're slowly like coming, like I see a lot of women engineers, doctors, artists, lawyers.
Just to build off of that, they are still continuing to be oppressed and still continuing to face a lot of criticism just for being who they are, women, people of all kinds. But it has, I will admit that it's slightly been better. You know what I mean? Obviously, we have so much room for
Yeah,
improvement.
like
But I
back
feel
then
like
they used to like think like women couldn't do that, women couldn't do this, and but like now we've sort of proven that we can do like lifting weights or something. Like they'd be like, oh, men can do that because they're
yeah.
strong and stuff, but they think we're not strong, and like we are strong,
I
obviously.
think yeah, like when when your grandparents ask, like my grandparents, not my specifically, but people always like older generations will be like, you should be a doctor or whatever, and me being a girl, I'm like, luckily I've been blessed with very good like families from both sides. My grandparents have always been very supportive of me and my sister because I think that we have a lot more daughters than sons in my family, so we haven't really faced that much like sexism because we've just always treated both as equals, and I'm lucky enough for my like grandparents to tell me like, you would be a good doctor, you should go in this route, you should do that route, and I'm lucky enough for that. And I feel like maybe obviously that's not true for all families, I'm just blessed with a very great one, but I feel like that also has slowly been improved upon with people stepping out more, being more vocal.
But like as much as we are like privileged compared to past women, there's still a lot of room for improvement. Like a lot of people like my parents didn't know the gender, like my gender until I was born, like if I was a boy or a girl or whatever. So when I was born, like my grandparents were kind of disappointed because they wanted a son so that they could carry on the family name, because in like Indian marriages, like the wife takes on the husband's last name, and we don't have that many sons in my family, so yeah.
Yeah, I feel like my mom, she wanted she wanted a daughter. Of course, she wasn't like sexist or anything, but she kind of wanted her older child to be a son. I felt maybe because I mean, because the older sibling, they're known as the breadwinner, right? They have to take care of the family. And I guess she felt like if she had a son, they would be better able to do that because, they're seen as stronger and stuff. And it's better now. Of course, she doesn't resent that I'm a girl or anything like that. But I guess it just goes to show how older generations, they still have this sense of sexism in their brain because that's kind of what they grew up with. I don't really blame them. That's what they were taught when they were little, and their views are just,
And that's what they're going to continue to teach us, so
yeah, right.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I guess in a sense I kind of get it because that's what they grew up with, so it's hard for them to change their beliefs. But I'm also happy that this generation is different and more accepting, you know.
Yeah.
So
Like my grandma, she would always be like, oh, you should have just been born a boy because you're doing all boy things. Like I would whistle, right? And apparently that's a boy thing. So I would whistle continuously just to annoy her because it was so funny. She'd
really,
get super mad.
my parents just taught me that whistling was like, disrespectful or wrong or something, and they were like, oh, just don't whistle. I don't know why. They just taught me not to whistle for
I
some
can't
reason.
whistle anyway, so
Yeah, I would she would always make fun of me for like wearing jeans or something. She's like, you should have just been born a boy. I was like, haha, yeah.
I
But
think, oh my god, like that just goes to show that even not okay, that just goes to show not every older person in another older generation is like sexist or like just misogynistic. Like it's everyone's different. Like if you compare one person's family to another, it's not obviously going to be the same. Like I think for me, like I said, my grandparents, my family in general is very supportive in whatever I do, and they don't care that I'm a girl. In fact, they praise that I'm a girl, and they always I've always had my family's going like, you're so lucky, to my parents, that you're so lucky you have two daughters. Like that must be amazing, and I think also they love the whole concept of like dressing them up, because in Indian culture, specifically, for anyone who doesn't know, at least in Hindu culture, like we have so many different types of outfits, so many different types of jewelry, and they're just big festivals, and the women tend to get very dressed up, right? Because there is so many options for us. And like my family loves that kind of that fact that we have so many options, and I feel like they love that, so they kind of praise when we have daughters. And my parents have always told me like, you're the breadwinner of the family, because I'm the oldest. You should make us proud, you should make sure you make a lot of money. And like normally that's the thing you would hear from, like you would tell to your sons or whatever, older or younger.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like it of course it varies between each family. But yeah.
Yeah. And
Um
also, yeah, sorry, I was gonna add, also it's like, with the stereotypes and stuff, I feel like, yeah, generally they would be happy with a boy, but also at the same time, it's in the culture that, a woman should be respected by her husband and by the society in general and stuff like that. So it's like, there's still, I feel like, even if they're biased towards one gender or something like that, they're still respectful.
Again, depends, it's a case by case kind of thing. Not all families will be like that, some are and some aren't.
right, yeah. Let's see. Moving on to, I think, fashion. I feel like it's kind of fun to talk about the fashion differences. Now I feel like I'm not gonna say that younger generations they're starting to go toward more Western type, but like I kind of noticed that we prefer more like jeans and t-shirts, and our parents prefer more like traditional type of Indian clothes. So whenever
Mhm.
it would be like whenever we had festivals or something, I would have to, my parents would always be like, no, don't wear the jeans and t-shirts, you know, wear the Indian clothes. But yeah.
Yeah, usually, sometimes for festivals, if it's a big festival, then I'll wear like a kurta and stuff. But if it's for all festivals, I usually wear a kurta, but sometimes I just wear regular pants underneath.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
also fashion designs, like ripped jeans, when my mom first found out what those were, she was so confused because she like
Yeah.
could not comprehend that people were like ripping jeans
Purposely
purposely.
ripping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then selling them for profit. And my mom was
Yeah,
like,
my
that's
my dad, when he first saw ripped jean, he was like, "Oh, I feel bad for that person. They must be so poor that they couldn't
Yeah.
afford
Same.
they couldn't afford a new pair of jeans." And I was like, "No, that's a fashion. They actually bought that." And he was like, "What? That makes no sense."
And like when my parents like saw them, they were like, do they just like buy jeans and tear them up for fashion?
yeah, even
Right, and
crop
I
top.
tried to explain it to them, like this is what people wear. And okay, like Loki, honestly, there are some really nice ripped jeans out there, and like even I will go, I'm like, okay, I want that, right? And my parents to this still to this day don't understand it, but now they don't like aggressively judge. It's more like joking. It's like, I really feel bad for that person. They seem that they can't afford any more
Yeah,
pants.
that's actually exactly what my dad said when he first saw it. He was just jokingly like, "Oh, I guess they couldn't buy a new one." Mm.
Yeah, even crop tops, my mom was like, "Oh, why'd they get it in a size too small? Why didn't they get the right size?" I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
they
that
think
is
it's
the
like
right
an
size."
inappropriate fashion. Like they're like, if you see crop tops or even shorts, they think like, no, don't wear shorts. Like even outside when you go somewhere, they're like, don't wear shorts. Only wear long pants or capris. Like don't wear shorts.
Yeah, I feel like that generation difference is mostly toward Indians though, because I feel like white people, I mean, they're already used to wearing shorts, but I feel like Indian people specifically,
Yeah, we're
uh,
more conservative.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like as the generations go by, will be more.
But I feel like
Also,
there's
I feel like the reason that Indian people who are moving here, they're more gravitating towards Western clothes. I feel like it would be for two main things. One being the fact that, everyone here is wearing those, so you kind of want to fit in. But the other being the fact
Yeah,
that
assimilating into
sometimes
culture.
sometimes they're just more comfortable. Like,
yeah.
for me, like kurtas, sometimes, there's the cotton ones and they're pretty good, but sometimes they're also just kind of scratchy and stuff. And so I would just prefer a t-shirt and shorts or jeans or something.
But I kind
And
of
then my
feel like,
parents, I guess my parents just feel more comfortable. Well, my mom at least, she usually just wears Indian clothes. Even if it's a more casual, design or something, she always just walks around in Indian clothes. So
yeah,
yeah.
same. But I kind of feel like the generation is hypocritical because they're criticizing people walking around in crop tops that are not really that high up. Like they're just like a couple inches above the waist. And then they're wearing like saris, their blouses like just come like right below their chest. So there's like a lot of cleavage showing.
Yeah, and I think that's again, I wish I could change that. Like I get when it comes to fashion and stuff, fashion is meant to be expressive. You are meant to express yourself, and you shouldn't care what other people are going to say, right? Like I never judge someone's like okay, unless it's like horrific and I'm like, "Why? What is that mess?" right? Well, most like 99% of the time I won't judge because that's someone's form of expression. That is how they are going to express themselves, and that's just what they feel most comfortable in or feel happy wearing, right? And I'm not going to judge that, but like that's when I get defensive also when it comes to my parents. It's like when they start judging them, I'm like, why are you judging them? That's what they choose to wear. They feel happy in it. It doesn't affect us. There's no need to criticize, there's no need to judge. So,
Yeah, I feel like parents were so used to wearing saris and stuff. When they see their children wearing something that they did not grow up wearing, they're more defensive about their own traditional clothing, that they view shorts or something like that as foreign and therefore not belonging. So they're more negative toward it, mostly because they're just not used to it because they didn't grow up around those type of stuff.
I feel like
Yeah.
not only
Even
clothes, but like wearing a buttu or a bindi or whatever you want to call it. Like my cousins and my aunts and uncles and grandparents are like so surprised to find that I don't wear like that on my face on a daily like basis. And I don't wear my hair in a braid all the time. I let my hair out sometimes. Like they just find it really weird.
right? Okay, speaking on that, I think okay, I don't know if it's I'm the only one out of all of us, like my family out of all of us, but my mom forces me and my sister to wear a buttu or a bindi, whatever you call it in your in whatever language. But if for those who don't know, it's just basically it's a small like red dot in between your eyebrows and like around your forehead area, and it's very symbolic. And there's a whole meaning behind that, but I'm gonna get off topic. But my mom makes me and my sister wear it every single day at all times, obviously. And then if we don't wear it, she like actively points us out and yells at us to go put one on, even if it's like all the way upstairs in the bathroom, right? So I have a habit of wearing it, and now I can't. I feel weird without wearing it. And same thing like letting my hair out. My mom still judges it, and she's like, "Why are you wearing your hair out? Put it up or something." And it's just again, I feel most comfortable with my hair down. I think I look best with my hair down. And I think there's just that also like difference because she always goes, back in my day, I used to wear my hair in braids and I would never take it out. Like leaving your hair out was just a big no. So,
Yeah, and another thing is like I think one thing we fail to understand is like between our generations, there's millennials, which are often the forgotten generation. Like so they grew up like without technology for half of their life, but then around like their teenage years, I guess the iPhones came and the technology came and it changed everything. So often my parents compare me to like my millennial cousins, like, oh, she didn't start like if it comes to like straightening or curling my hair, like, oh, she didn't start doing that until she was like 17 years old. Probably because she grew up half her life in India and then she came here and then she became accustomed to those traditions.
Yeah, I
yeah.
feel like makeup, that's a really important thing. Like my parents, my mom, she didn't wear makeup until I guess she was married, so like 24, 25. So when she sees, I don't personally wear makeup. I don't know. I just want to wear that when I'm older. But when she sees like my classmates wearing it, she's like, oh, she gets so weirded out because she's like, oh, they're like little children. Why are they wearing makeup? And I guess that's another generation thing because they didn't wear makeup when they were younger.
And I feel like that's also pushed onto us, and now it's like I want to try it out. You know what I mean? I'm a person that wants to try different things out, even if, and I don't know if I'm gonna like it. Like I can't just straight up say something I don't like it without trying it out. And I'm like, I want to know it. I want to try that out. It looks cool. It's like, makeup is like painting on your face. That's what I see it as. It's like your face is a blank canvas and I'm just putting paint on it. And I've always wanted to try that. And it's just like, again, my mom is not used to it, doesn't really, I don't know, not accept it, but just finds it weird if you wear it, if that makes sense. Like if you just choose to wear it on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah. There were some moments when I would like watch YouTube videos. I'm like, oh my God, that actually looks really cool. I kind of want to try it. But I was always scared to ask my mom. Because I remember when I was little, I would wear, I wore like nail polish once, and my mom was making fun of me. She was like, oh, you're becoming a woman now. And I felt so awkward. So I don't want, like, even though I kind of want to try it one day, maybe, like, not now, maybe when I'm older. But like, there are some times when I'm like right now where I kind of want to try it, but I'm kind of scared my mom's gonna make fun of me and be like, "Who are you trying to impress?" You know?
I'm just scared to ask in general. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just me. I just get scared to ask because I'm like, I want to, buy that. That looks cool. I want to put that on my face. I want to see what it looks like. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just restrain from asking. I'll do it later when I'm like 25 years old.
Yeah, I was so scared to ask my mom whether I could straighten my hair because the first time I asked, she was like, "Why do you want to straighten your hair, huh? What's wrong with your hair? Why are you doing it all of a sudden? Is there a boy in the picture?" I was like, "Mom, I just want to try it." So my mom gets so like, I guess, I don't know, she gets really interested in this sort of things, so I
Yeah,
can't ask anything.
same. Like, I don't want to use makeup and stuff, and I never really asked for it or something. But like, often like they like with straightening my hair, I was really scared to ask. And when I did, my parents were like, "Why do you want to do it?" Like, and then I had to like explain, we have a straightener. We don't use it at all because my mom doesn't like straightening her hair. All my classmates do it. And then they had to call their parents and then talk to my classmates about how if they were doing it or not. And that was really embarrassing. But yeah, they get so defensive about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think in general, like, it's sometimes, at some point you just don't feel like explaining it to them. Like, okay, it's just different for us now, okay? And then at some point I feel like I just kind of give up and I just accept with what they're saying and just go with it, even if I don't feel happy with the end result of what the argument or conversation has led to. Okay, does anyone else want to add anything? Okay, so I think
Uh,
that's it, right? Does anyone want to add it?
Yeah, I was gonna say like I don't really have anything that relatable for fashion because literally all I wear are like when I go outside, I wear t-shirt and pants. When I'm in my house, t-shirt and shorts, and that's pretty much it. And so, but I was like, I feel like we all have stories or anecdotes about stuff that our parents don't understand that we try to explain to them, or just stuff that our parents think, like what our parents think versus what we think. And I feel like a big thing, not just for Indian kids or Indian people, but for everyone, have you guys ever been in a grocery store or a store and you're waiting in line and your parents are like, "Oh, I forgot one more thing." So they leave and then they tell you to wait in line. And then you're waiting and it's almost your turn. There's like two people left. And this could be when you're younger or even right now because you don't have any money, you don't know how you're going to pay, and your parents have, it seems like they've been gone for hours and you're just waiting in line and you're like, "Oh no, we're almost up in line. When are they coming back?" And it's really embarrassing and awkward.
Yeah. I think one time when I went Black Friday shopping, my mom, there was like we got like 50 boxes of some like there were so many different things and we were just waiting in line. It was just me and my mom, and my mom was like, "Shoot, I forgot. I have to go get something." So I don't know where she went, but it was just me. I was like 9 or 10 and I was just there in the line, and I was like, "Oh," and obviously once every person moves up, you have to move your item. So I was like, there's like this like little 9 or 10-year-old just moving like 20, 30 boxes forward so I could move ahead in line, right? And I think by the time, and then for me at least then, it was like one person away from checkout. I think I was at checkout. I remember that. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, and the next person was me and I didn't know what to do. I was like, where's Amma? Where is she? I can't do this on my own. I don't have money. What if they're gonna accuse me of like robbing something?
Yeah, I always like look to the other person. I'm like, oh, you could go ahead, but there's always that struggle of trying to move your cart to the side so they could go ahead. And in like this Indian shop, it's like the aisles are like super narrow, so you can't really move your cart. So it'd be really awkward to try to let them go ahead, and then they sometimes get that annoyed look on their face, as if they're like, oh my god, you could have planned this earlier, right? And I'm like young, so I don't know what to do. I'm a literal child, so I kind of like bump into everything, and it's just really awkward. I hated those times as a child. I still experience it to this day, but yeah.
Yeah, and like I feel like there's also not just that shopping example, but just little things in general. Like for example, I like gaming, and so sometimes my mom is like, "Oh, pause the game and then get downstairs." But then I have to try to explain to her that I can't actually pause it because that's not how it works. I'm playing live with other people. So yeah.
I
Um
feel like
yeah. Oh, you can add something.
that's okay, you can go.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna like expand on my topic. So, do you wanna add something? Cause yeah, I was just asking if anyone else had anything relatable to
I
that.
was just gonna add on to the gaming one. Like, I don't think they understand how much people are counting on us to like finish the game. Like, if you ever like played an online game, you would know like it's like a team effort to win. So it's not possible to pause it.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so many more examples like that. But I mean, yeah, I feel like we could go on talking about, stuff that our parents don't understand. But I feel like that's all we have time for today. I feel like this was a longer episode, but I think that's fine. So yeah, I guess everyone who's listening, um, will call it here. So like, subscribe, follow, and do all the things if you want to. And I guess we'll see you guys in time for the next episode. Bye.
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 Bye.